A topic I see get discussed every time a new mainline Pokemon game drops is, where's the voice acting? Why do the cutscenes look so terrible? Man, these games used to be good! What happened? And I have to agree with a lot of these sentiments at this point. Having a lack of immersive features wasn't really a big deal with the sprite-based games. But ever since X and Y transitioned the series to 3D, it's felt so strange for the highest grossing IP in the world to not put the proper care into their games. What's good, gamers? I'm Megiro, and in this video, I'm gonna lay out my reasoning for why I feel Pokemon has no incentive to do better as a franchise anymore. Let's start with the voice acting, or rather the lack of it in the mainline titles. When asked in the past about why Pokemon games don't include voiceover, Game Freak claimed it would break player immersion to include voice acting. And that argument holds up for all of about 5 seconds before realizing, wait a minute, Pokemon Masters has voiceover. Does that make the game any less immersive, having voices for iconic trainers like Cynthia, Brock, Rosa, and countless others? No! In fact, I'd argue it makes it an even more immersive experience to bring the game to life by having the characters around your player be voiced. Many other Nintendo console titles finally made the leap of adding voiceover to their games, like Legend of Zelda with Breath of the Wild, but Pokemon remains one of the last holdouts in RPGs to not include voiced characters. One of the other points made was that Pokemon gets translated into 9 different languages, and that with how much text dialogue is involved, it would be too difficult to coordinate all of that for a same-day release. Now, that I can understand a little more, at least if you're a smaller company not making money hand over fist each time you drop a new title. You're telling me that with how much money Pokemon makes, the largest IP in the world, you can't manage that kind of thing? Maybe if they spent less time trying to sue people and trademark basic gameplay mechanics, they could have figured that out by now. But silly me. That's apparently not as innovative as trying to crush competition into the dirt to stop gamers from having other options. The graphics are another conundrum themselves, as ever since X and Y brought the games to 3D, there have been a whole host of issues that only seem to get worse with each new title. The 3DS games largely get a pass because of hardware limitations, and I'm willing to concede that packing a graphically immersive experience into a handheld console like the 3DS is something any company would have trouble with. But the moment the games hit the Nintendo Switch, that grace flew right out the window with Sword and Shield. It was so littered with lazy animations and textures that my bar was set so much higher than what we got. And it was already the lowest it's ever been for Pokemon. That was the first time I didn't bother finishing one, and I was going to skip out on Scarlet and Violet initially, but after giving Legends Arceus what would have been my final chance, and getting some enjoyment out of the game, I foolishly gave Game Freak the benefit of the doubt, and maybe they were on the right track to doing better. Boy, was I wrong! After pre-ordering the digital copy, I started seeing all of the videos of people playing the game early and how much of a mess things were. Graphical glitches galore, you'd almost think Pokemon phoned up Elder Scrolls to top how buggy Skyrim's release was. I was so put off by it that I didn't even play the game day one. I think I waited a week or two for them to iron out some of the issues before finally booting up the game and having my last shreds of hope for the franchise shattered with how mediocre and underwhelming of an experience Scarlet and Violet were. And now with Legend ZA, it's as if they haven't made any progress. In fact, it's like they took several steps back with how lifeless everything looks. The game's only set in one city, and you can't even explore all of the areas of that one location because they couldn't be bothered to put the time in to flesh out one freaking city. So what is it? Why does Pokemon, with all the money they bring in every year and such a global reach, get away with putting such minimal care into what many see as a huge vehicle to market the IP? The truth is honestly very simple. Pokemon games still sell. They've always sold and will continue to sell long past the heat death of the universe. Even with all its issues and complaints, Scarlet and Violet sold incredibly well, which means Pokemon fans by and large are happy with the games as they are. Game Freak doesn't have an incentive to change things because there's no monetary incentive to do so. Why would they pour more money into a project than needed if people will complain about it on the internet, but continue to buy the game anyway? In fact, I've seen an outpouring of videos criticizing Legends ZA, probably more than I've seen for any other Pokemon game to date. But whenever I check my feed, I see just as many, if not more people, streaming the game and audiences tuning in to watch. And I can't really fault them for that. I'm not here to rag on people for still liking Pokemon. I wouldn't be making this video if I didn't feel as passionate and like Pokemon as much as I do. But the inconvenient truth is that with so many people happily purchasing, streaming, and engaging with Pokemon more than ever, Pokemon won't change for the better. And it's hard to say whether not buying the games will make enough of a dent for them to increase the quality. People often forget when it comes to Pokemon that the games don't account for as much of a portion of the franchise's revenue as they might think. Looking at the published numbers from 2022, out of the 118.5 billion brought in, 91.3 billion of that was from licensed merchandise. That means plushies, cards, anything you can think of that, well, isn't a Pokemon game. And that's from 3 years ago. I can only imagine what the numbers look like now with the introduction of TCG Pocket and how much money that's made. The games had put up a respectable 27.14 billion, but when you put things into perspective, merchandise made Pokemon over 3 times as much money. So the only way to realistically get more of an effort put into the Pokemon games is for them to account for more of the Pokemon Company's revenue, which means people would need to stop buying every piece of Pokemon memorabilia they come in contact with. With such a large gap in numbers between merchandise versus game sales though, is it even possible for this to ever happen? Or have we reached the singularity where Pokemon actually has no fiscal incentive to improve? If you have your own thoughts you'd like to share, make sure to comment down below how you feel about the Pokemon franchise. And if you enjoyed the video, consider dropping a like or subscribing to the channel. And I hope to catch you in the next one.